House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
Santa Claus is almost here. It's about a week left, but that means that while jolly old Saint Nick is preparing his sleigh, getting the whole reindeers all motivated and fed and ready for their trek around the world, we continue to give you valuable information. We are giving you the gift of knowledge when it comes to real estate. Gina Campos is here. Liz Duenas is, speaking of someone who jet sets and travels around the world, Liz right now is in Las Vegas, I believe. Hey, fancy.
Family.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm with my great grandbabies.
There you go, and we congratulate you and your family on all of your generations and everything. But one thing that has particular relevance to many generations here on Guam, Gina, I'm sure you would agree, is the whole concept of rural development, and maybe a little bit misunderstood or underappreciated. Is that fair to say?
Could be underutilized the last few years.
Underutilized.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. How so?
Well, so maybe about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, rural development. So for people who don't know, rural development is another financing tool that the banks offer, and not all the banks offer it anymore. VA has become a very popular loan option. So, for the last few years, most people have been looking towards the VA loan, but rural development, for those of you who can remember, like when my parents went out and secured their house loan, they used Farmers Home Loan. And it is, the new name for Farmers Home Loan is rural development. That's the modern name. And so what it is it's a financing tool, and some of the banks still offer rural development. And I say it's been underutilized because the prices have gone up. In the last maybe 6-7 years, real estate pricing of homes has gone up quite a bit. So most of the families that we typically see utilizing the rural development loan have been priced out of the market. And we believe that the rural development is going to have a comeback with customers. If homes don't sell, prices will come down. And at some point, it's going to have to move. I mean, most owners can't hold on to real estate forever. I mean, the goal, if you want to sell it, the goal is to get it sold. And at some point, you're going to reduce the price to accomplish that. And the reason rural development loans and VA loans are so popular is because they're the two loan options that will finance 100% of that home, not the closing cost, but the purchase price.
Now, Liz, I'm interested in qualifications for this, because much in the same way as we talked about last week, how VA loans, you have to be a member in good standing of the U.S. military, and you have to have a certain number of years under your service belt, right? How does one qualify for a rural loan? Do you have to be actively involved in the agricultural sector?
So for rural development loan, you have to, of course, they look at your income. You have to be employed 2 years, and it's based on your income. You have to have a score about 640. Your credit score should be around 640. If it's anything less than that, it'll be subject to whether the bank will want to work with you, and then it may require more of a down payment. But the rural development loan is one of the loans that we used to use, as Gina put it, many years ago, that was very popular. So I think it's making a comeback once prices come down. But again, it's one of those that are 100% guaranteed. You still have to come up with your closing costs. There are requirements when you purchase, of course, your home insurance, your closing costs you would have to come up with out of pocket. Some people have a misconception that if it's 100% guaranteed, they think they can just go in and with no money's down. And that is not the case, even with rural development loan, just as the same as veterans loan. You do have to come out with some closing costs, but there's a percentage that they will allow for a gift. Let's say if I wanted to give my child some monies to cover their closing costs, that would be accepted for the rural development loan.
Okay.
But years ago, there were only certain villages that were covered under rural development loan. But now, fortunately, they made the change, And that's not a problem anymore. So any area would be covered,
I was gonna
under
say, yeah,
Guam.
because
So
typically
that's,
areas like maybe like the Sleepy Lagoon region of Tamuning, where Jimmy D's is, or Happy Landing Road on Tumon, or Jonestown also in Tamuning and everything. Not exactly known as, a place where, like a lot of farmlands grow, but now you're saying the scope has been brought.
yeah, the rural development loan, luckily, it's low to middle income that could qualify for it, because they would look at their income and allow for that particular loan. So again, it's making a comeback, as Gina puts it. Once price starts to come down, people would be able to utilize the RD loans again. Again, there are different banks that allow for it. Not all the banks will utilize or offer the RD loans.
Okay, and much in the same way as we talked about again last week with the VA loans being fixed rate loans, Liz, are the rural developments fixed rate?
Yes, those are fixed rate loans, but I guess there's some saying now that they think the interest rates will drop. Cross our fingers that will drop shortly, but there are no guarantees. But there is some say in the real estate community that will drop. I guess it's based on what's happening in the market, but again, that is one loan that was very common.
Okay.
So we're hoping to utilize much more of that again.
Yeah. All right. Now, Gina, I had a question, because you anecdotally said something. You said your parents actually got, did you say it was their first home that they got through the old farmer's loan?
So one of the qualification guidelines is absolutely it has to be your first home.
Okay. I was going to say, does it skew younger then, or our first time home, like young people, maybe recent college grads that just gotten married and everything like that? This would be an avenue that they should probably investigate.
Well, absolutely, because if you haven't bought real estate before, even if you had a down payment, I do encourage people to look at this loan, because once you buy, you can't use it anymore. And let's say you want to utilize RD and your income fits. And by the way, there's been a lot of changes over the last couple of years. And one of the guidelines is that the income ratios have gone up. And it's based on family size. So, you can go online and look this up under USDA.gov. And you can actually go online and take a look at the income ratios, how many people in the family in order to have this income ratio. But it's not to say, when my parents bought, it was absolutely for low income families at the time. And my parents qualified for it. And there are different mechanisms within, back then, what was called Farmers Home Loan. There was different mechanisms to help low income families. But now the program has really broadened and is, so don't think of it as a low income program anymore. It's actually very, the income brackets are quite high, and they actually don't have a limit. So some loans can only go up to 650,000. It's amazing to say that rural development loan does not have a limit. So it just depends on what you, based on your personal income and debt, what you qualify for. And then going back to the other requirement, you mentioned something about farming, Jace. Mm-hmm. So the way they look at the RD loan, it's not really farming. You don't have to be a farmer,
right?
But you have to buy in a rural area, and the way they define it is, it's density. So if the village that you're looking at buying, so like Tamuning, you want to buy in Tamuning, the population in Tamuning has already surpassed the density for RD. So even if you want to buy in Tamuning, it doesn't meet the guideline because there's too many. It's no longer rural.
Oh, so there's not only a ceiling but also a floor.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you have to be within the range. Okay. Most people would just say, okay, as long as I'm like less than or equal to, then I'm good. Okay, that's good to know.
Running for a long time already, no longer qualifies under RD. So you cannot use that loan program and purchase in the village of Tamuning because it's too densely populated. What they did with Dedido, because Dedido also fell into that bracket, and during the time when RD was so popular, so many people wanted to buy in Dedido.
I was
and
gonna
then
say you've got Santa Barbara, Isangsong, very, very densely populated areas.
it became very densely populated. And what happened was the government of Guam actually redid the districts. And so Dedido, you remember Harmon, they cut out, they redistributed the districts. So now you can still buy in Dedido because they reconfigured the district so that it would meet the rural guidelines. And there are
And
several.
also anecdotally, that's how a lot of kids that stayed in Laddie Heights wound up having to go up to Simon Sanchez and Jigo, like for high school, because of redistricting.
That's right. It's under
That's right.
Manila. It's Manila.
Mhm.
Yeah. So kids that lived on Isangsong would go to JFK, and kids that lived all the way in Kaiser and Liguan Terrace would have to go up to Sanchez for high school. So it's completely different side story.
Yeah,
but that
different.
does speak to the redistricting, and at least from the standpoint of being able to acquire property and everything like that, this is something that you probably want to really take a good hard look at.
Yeah, there's
That's
one
right.
other important thing about RD that VA does not do. The VA loan does not allow you to buy a piece of, home. So it has to be your first time home. If it's not your first time home, there are not loopholes, but there are items that the USDA office will consider. So, it's always best to check with a loan officer or call us or call your realtor and get guidelines, right? But the thing is, under USDA, and this is different from VA, under the RD loan, you can actually purchase a fixer-upper home, and the loan will give you monies to make the repairs, which is quite different from a VA loan. VA does not do that, whereas RD does.
Interesting. Okay, Liz, any final thoughts on what people should know about? I would say probably this is a fantastic opportunity. And again, we started the episode saying, this is something that's probably Gina said underutilized.
Yes, we would let people know to check your credit score just to see what does it look like. And there are free sites. Be careful what button you push, because sometimes there's some form of membership assigned to your request. But there's credit scores that you can request for online just to see what that is. Because that will make a difference whether the banks will loan you, whether it be RD, whether it be a VA loan. Your credit scores are important. And one of the key items we say, sometimes if your credit score is low, make sure you pay your bills on time. And if for some reason your credit score is so low, sometimes people don't even have a credit card, apply for one, even a small amount, and then start paying regularly, because that will establish your credit. Because if you want to buy a home and you have you've never done any credits, it's going to be difficult for them to loan you monies from the bank. Mm-hmm. So you have to establish your credit. So out of high school, out of college, get a small loan and start paying regularly. Even if you have the money to pay for it gradually, just to establish your credit is very important.
Having debt is a good thing, young ladies and gentlemen. I know everybody says adulting sucks. They say that on the internet, but this is part of the system. And, like establishing a little bit of debt and then paying that down is going to help you when it comes time to make much larger purchases, like getting a home.
Correct.
And who better to actually let us navigate these very treacherous waters than my dear friends Liz and Gina. So ladies, we want to wish the both of you the merriest of Christmases and absolutely happy holidays.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
Jason.
Christmas.
All right, Liz, please tell everybody in Sin City, give them our best regard. If you happen to see Celine Dion at our show and everything like that, tell her I said what's up. Wayne Newton also, I hear is very good this time of year.
Yep.
And Gina, I'll see you at the coffee shop.
Absolutely.
I'll see you downtown. All right. Happy holidays, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.